Dwayne, good to see you, man. How's everything going?
Everything's well. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Yeah. So we're here to talk about your health journey over the last few years, and this sort of came up out of the blue for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's 2023, you're in your early 40s, you got a young kid, you're in a few years into an amazing retirement, and you go to the doctor and you hear the word cancer.
Well, yeah.
Take me back and tell me the story of the first time you heard your doctor say that word to you.
In my mind, I'm thinking prostate.
Sure.
Something in my prostate. I was experiencing a slow stream, and so I know that deals with the prostate area. And I just, coming off the history of my family, and I started learning that.
So by history, you mean your dad?
My father. My father was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had to do, a lot of different rounds of MRIs when it came to the prostate, when it came to my abdomen. Coming out of that, you just go into your life, and then your primary care call you, and she just say, hey, everything's great.
Yep.
Or they say,
they leave the voicemail, right?
Yeah.
Like your labs are great.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yes.
You want a text message.
Yep.
You want something quick to say everything's great. Well, she was like, hey, can you come in? I was like, oh, that's not good. So I go in, and it's not about my prostate. It's about something that they saw in the images on my kidney. You don't want to hear surgery. You don't want to hear cancer. You don't want to hear kidneys. And so I heard all three of those in the same conversation. And so now I'm scared a little bit.
And you're not telling anybody.
Yeah.
Because you're a man and you don't want to worry them.
Yeah, you don't want to worry everyone. Yeah.
How are you handling and processing those emotions?
Yeah. So you think about life, and I said something to one of my partners. I said, hey, doctor came to you and said you had 1 week to live. How would you live that week? Would you live it different than you live it now? He was like, absolutely. I was like, I think we should start living that way a little bit more, because you just don't know. And I've always been a person who got up every day and attacked the day and tried to win the day. And so my mentality started shifting to really started focusing a little bit more on these 24 hours and really focusing on really building more moments that create memories for myself and for my family, for my loved ones.
Who's the first person that you tell with the news?
My wife.
Do you mind sharing her reaction?
Scared. And so I saw that in her. And, obviously I tried to soften it. You know what I mean? Like, we good. I'm good. Right. We got the best doctors. We got the best care. It's all gonna be fine. It's just something I need to do. But I saw fear in her. Then I had to tell my mom. I had to tell my dad. And the same thing. I am someone in my family that, I went to a level that my family has never seen before. Right. And in that level, it's an invincibility in that. It's a superhero kind of, person that is shown on that court sometime. And so people don't get to see the weak moments in you. And it was like one of the first times that my family got a chance to see, armor was affected a little bit. And it was a little, weak moments, happening.
You do go public with this news.
The latest on NBA Hall of Famer Dwyane Wade. He revealed his battle with cancer, including a 2023 surgery to remove 40% of his kidney.
It's not always fun being in the public eye.
No, it's not.
But you go out front, you lead with this news.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you and why you decided to be so proactive and vocal with sharing what is really an intensely personal experience?
Yeah, I had the surgery December of 2023. I think the news broke 2025, roughly a couple months within 2025. I didn't think I was going to share it. I remember talking to my team about it earlier. It's like, is you going to tell anyone? I was like, no, I'm just going to deal with this personally, my family and I. And I'm a public figure who shares a lot of things. But this one right here was one of the things that I was like, no, you're not going to see me this week.
Right.
Like, it was so hard for me to have my kids see me not be able to walk, not be able to go to the bathroom, not be able to stand up. Like, all these things was like, it hurt me. I'm dealing with that, but also, why am I in the public eye? Am I in it just to get endorsement deals, or am I in it to make some real impact? And I knew if I came out and if I shared this journey with people, it can help someone. It can help someone that's on that cusp of, what should I do? Should I say this? Should I trust someone with this? And so I found strength in my vulnerability, and then I decided to share it.
Why do you think that stigma still exists around vulnerability and around illness, particularly for men? And I think particularly for men of color, it's just something that there's a general uneasiness with, especially for something as utterly human as cancer, which is, doesn't know any races or ethnicities.
Well, it shows signs of weakness. And I don't know about every man and every culture, but I do know a little bit about mine, and that's the one thing we cannot show. We cannot show weakness. That's what we wake up every day trying not to do, you know, going back to our history.
What would you say to someone who recently received, maybe it's not a cancer diagnosis, maybe it's some other condition or some other illness, and they're processing it. They're trying to figure out how to move forward.
I don't think it's one way to process something that you're scared of, something that brings fear to you. Go through your process first. Get to your trusted circle. Allow them to help you cover and hold you, lift you up. It's the reason they're there. They're not just there to go out and have a good time with you. They're actually there to be the individuals that when you fall, they're actually there to catch you.
Another person you're talking to is somebody who has some aches and pains, has some weird stuff going on in their body, but they're like, it's just, I'm getting older, or, you know, that's my body's being weird, it's temporary.
Yeah.
What would you say to that person?
You know, MRIs, X-rays, doctors, blood tests, all these things.
So screenings.
Finding someone that you can have these conversations with. I think one of the most important things for me is when I found my primary care doctor, I can have conversations with her. I felt comfortable. Some people go and they burn it out and don't care about the future.
Right.
But if you care about the future, you care about being around for it, to see the things that you've worked on come to fruition, to see your kids grow up, to see your family grow, then you got to be around to do that, and you need to be healthy to do that.
It's being ambitious with your health. It's being your own agent.
Yeah.
Advocate.
You have to be your own CEO.
Yeah.
You have to be the CEO of your health. You know, and you have to be the assistant of your health. You have to be all those things before you can let anyone else enter. You have to be the CEO of your own health.
So thank you for joining us. And we've watched the video with Dwayne, and who was so generous with telling his personal experience with diagnosis and treatment. I'm so glad you could join us to help us unpack that a little bit and make it a little bit more actionable. Now, one of the things that I find interesting in your work is obviously you see men and women at various stages of their cancer journey. But especially in the earlier stages, when we're talking about screenings and diagnosis and sort of initial treatment plans, what's the difference that you see when you're talking with male patients versus female patients?
Well, I think when it comes to men's health, men have a unique way at looking at illness.
It's a nice way of saying unique is a nice word.
Illness, disease, and particularly the C word, right? I mean, men are more likely to drive a car, notice a light come on, but the car's driving fine, so, you know, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. And so I think for a lot of men, there is a lack of awareness, not only to be the CEO of their own health care, but also they don't want to know. And it's almost better, ignorance is bliss if anything else is going on. I think there's been a lot of you know, public service announcements saying, get a colonoscopy, get a PSA, but if men, particularly young men, feel fine, they don't feel the urge to necessarily do that because they don't want to know, you know. So I think that's one of the challenges that men uniquely face that's different than women.
And I mean, you heard Dwayne talk about how he really advocated for himself, which I think is so important. He noticed he was really listening to his body. He obviously has excellent access to excellent health care. But as far as that self-advocacy of a patient coming in and saying, doctor, like I have this thing going on, I don't know what to make of it. That's something I think we need to see men doing more of. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you can't necessarily prevent cancer from happening. And there's a lot of things you can do to reduce your risk of developing cancer. But for the most part, most people who develop cancer, whether it be genetic or environmentally caused, they didn't really have control over it. But they do have control over getting an established primary care provider, going out and seeing a healthcare provider if they do have symptoms that may be worrisome, rather than ignoring it and just hoping that it'll go away. But I also think that, particularly with cancer, there's always been this stigma that's associated with it. I would say even worse than having low T, like we just heard. You know, for generations, there's always been blame associated with getting cancer. There's something that you did wrong, and therefore you ended up having cancer. So,
and how do you, particularly in the moments after diagnosis, when you've seen a patient and you're sort of explaining the next steps, how do you talk to them about processing not only the information, but starting to sort of build that support system, tell their friends and family about their diagnosis? Because as we saw with Dwayne, I think having a strong support system is critical to getting through treatment.
Yeah, I mean, that was an excellent interview because you saw how the normal reaction is to having the diagnosis of cancer. Clam up.
Don't tell anyone.
Right. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to take care of this on my own. But then you also saw how important it was and what a relief it was when he did tell his family, and everyone around him was supportive. And not everyone has that luxury, to be honest with you. I see plenty of patients that unfortunately don't have someone that they can turn to or someone that they can lean on. And I think that makes a tremendous difference in their outcomes if they don't have a support system. And we do our best to provide a support system, groups, support groups and whatnot for a variety of different cancers. But I think it's very important to appreciate, particularly for men, that this is nothing to be shamed about or embarrassed about, and that you should go ahead and be proactive and seek help.
And it's certainly not an old person's disease. And I think particularly with advances in diagnoses, we're seeing a lot more young people being diagnosed with different types of cancer. Can you just, and again, we all have to worry about all different types of cancers, but like throughout a man's age, starting maybe in their 20s, how should we be thinking about different cancers and sort of just keeping, one eye open towards the different types that we might be susceptible to at any given age?
Sure. So when a man's in his 20s or younger, that only makes up for 1% of all the cancers that we see in men, and that would primarily be some hematologic malignancies or testis cancer. Now,
So testicular cancer and blood cancers.
Yeah. And then as you get older, in your 20s, 30s, and early 40s, it still primarily does not involve the cancers that we see later on when you get to your 40s, which starts to now include prostate cancer, particularly colon cancer, and then as you saw with Dwayne, kidney cancer. I mean, I've had now in the past year at least 3 patients in their 30s with kidney cancer that I treated, and it's awareness is one thing, and I think that as you saw, his diagnosis of kidney cancer did not come about because he had signs or symptoms or he was being screened for kidney cancer, but he was aware that he had a family history of prostate cancer and therefore sought help or sought evaluation for urinary symptoms, and that's what led to the diagnosis of his prostate cancer. So just being aware that there could be something going on as you get older definitely helped him out in an indirect way. And then obviously from the 50s to 70s, that's probably the sweet spot where we see the majority, up to a third of all the cancers are in that age group. And we're talking about prostate cancer, colon cancer, skin cancer, and if you're a smoker, lung cancer. So these are the cancers that we do screen for, that you can do something about, even if you aren't doing anything actively to try to prevent it from happening.
So we did a feature last year in Men's Health called, that Marty Munson edited for us, called The Good News About Cancer. And I love this story because there is so much good news about cancer these days, particularly when it comes to diagnosis. With those sort of main cancers that are impacting men, just what are the things that we need to be doing and talking to our physicians about as far as measuring levels, testing for biopsies or malignancies, and really getting a handle or ahead of something?
So when we're talking specifically about men, I think prostate cancer, which is the most common one that everyone thinks about, similar to breast cancer in women, would be to have a blood test called a PSA every year. And if you have a family history, you shouldn't start in your 50s, you should actually start in your 40s. We don't screen for kidney cancer, but colon cancer, obviously everyone knows about the value of the colonoscopy and that you don't necessarily...
And by value, you mean you lose a few pounds because you have to fast, and then you take a really good nap when they do it. Yeah. It's like the best sleep you're ever going to have.
I agree. I mean, that's...
And you're also cleared, or, the health stuff, but like, it's really about the losing weight for me.
Yeah, but the incidence of colon cancer in younger people is on the rise, and I think that is something that if you diagnose early, you can dramatically change your outcome. I think skin cancer, everybody knows about self-examination. If you see something that's suspicious, go see a doctor, see a dermatologist. And if you're a smoker, you know, people are now doing CT scans of the chest to evaluate for the risk of lung cancer. So, you know, screening is particularly important, and I think if you are very interested in doing anything to prevent it, I think, you know, the modifiable factors would be your diet, exercise, weight, and alcohol intake.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your advice.